and get started. Again, my name is Beth Gully, and I am an ambigram designer. And we are going to be learning how to make an ambigram today. So I want to make sure that you have your worksheet. And this is a coloring page for some of our viewers that might be under, say, 5 or 6 years old and aren't really interested in learning how to make an ambigram. But you can get this worksheet at animotionlogos.com and just click on entire collection. I will tell you, if you're worried about trying to get that downloaded and not miss part of the class, just grab a couple of sheets of paper. That'll be fine. I'll walk you through what you need to know. So let's see. I guess with that, we'll go ahead and get started. You will want to go ahead and get a pencil and also an eraser, because those are going to be helpful as we get into the project. I'm going to scoot this down just a little bit more there. There we go. And so I'm going to trust that everybody has what they need and that they're ready to get started. Now, first, I just want to start off with what an ambigram is, and it's easier to show you than to tell you. So I am going to just draw one for you. And we just celebrated a holiday. So if you think you know what this might be, you can holler it out. Of course, I won't be able to hear you, but maybe your neighbors will if you're outside. So do you have any idea of what this says? It says Easter, doesn't it? So we have the word Easter, E-A-S-T-E-R. And when you flip it upside down, we have risen, R-I-S-E-N. I probably should dot the I. I forgot to do that on the other side. So we go from Easter to risen. And that is what we're going to be creating today, is to learn how you can create your own words. So let's go ahead and get started with the worksheet. And I'm going to leave this website here just so that people tuning in can find it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the first word. And I've got it on the worksheet real faint just so you can see it, so you can trace it. So the first word is wow. W-O-W. That's nice, right? Well, let's turn it over and see if it makes anything else. And it does. It makes the word wow, or mom, I'm sorry. It goes from wow to mom. That's pretty cool, because you know what? Moms kind of have that wow factor, don't they? And then there's another one over here with the word mom. And you know what that's going to say when you flip it over. It says wow. So wow and mom are an ambigram because the M can flip upside down, or the W can flip upside down to be an M, and then vice versa. Now the next one down, it says, notice how these two ways to write mom are different. And the first one is all lowercase M, and you can trace along with me, or if you don't have the worksheet, you can just write it. And you can use a pencil because you're going to need an eraser. I'm going to use a marker just because it's easier for you to be able to see it. You wouldn't be able to see this if I did it in pencil. So now we've written the word mom in lowercase. Let's see what happens when we flip it over. Does it say wow? Not really. We have these little, I call them hicks, that are sitting on the side of the letter. So you can use your eraser, and I'm going to use my whiteout, and I'm going to take the little hicks off of there. So now it says wow, doesn't it? And it still says mom just fine without the hicks on it, right? I'm just going to fix that little corner because that's bothering me. So we have mom and we have wow. Okay, now we're going to do the one to the right. And this one has a capital M and a lowercase o and a lowercase m. So let's see what happens when we flip this one over. Oh, that looks terrible. That doesn't look like wow at all, does it? So what we're learning is certain ways to do it work and other ways don't. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of that little hic on the lowercase letter. And having the letters two heights, that doesn't work either, does it? And one was pointy and one was round. So what we would do is just round that off. So those are some of the tricks that I use to figure out how to make a word go both directions. So in this case, it works in all caps, and it works in lowercase if you get rid of the little hics. So we're going to move on to working with letter combinations, but if you've just joined me, I just want to let you know my name is Beth Golly, and I'm an ambigram designer, and we're learning how to create ambigrams. And just grab a piece of paper and follow along with us. If you've got the worksheet or you want to pick it up, it's at animotionlogos.com. So next we're going to play with some letter combinations. Let's draw the lowercase p, just like that. And when we flip it over, what do we have? We have a D, don't we? So a P and a D flip over very, very well. Now let's do an A and an E. So we can do an A like this. And if we flip it over, does that look like an E? No, it doesn't look like an E at all. But if we wanted to try to find the commonalities between the letter A and the letter E, we might want to put maybe like that under there. So now we have more of an E, but an E wouldn't have that little hic on it. So now let's flip it over and let's see if we have an A. Oh, well, that's pretty cool. So now we do have an A. So the E can become an A if you do the A with the little curve at the top. So that's what we learned on that one. Now let's try an N and a U. So I always just start with one letter and see what I can find the other way. So we drew an N and we flip it over, and looky there, we got a lowercase u. That's pretty cool, huh? So now you can see how letters can be inverted to help you make ambigrams, make different letters upside down. So let's go ahead and move on to page 2. So now, and I hope you all are able to do cursive. If you're not, don't worry about this part of the worksheet. But if you do, this is just an interesting way to understand letters. So let's see if these work in cursive. So if I were to make a cursive P, it would look something like that. Okay, so I drew my P. Well, let's see what happens when I flip it over. Well, that looks pretty good. I've got a D there. And even if I took off both of the elements coming to the letter, it still would work. So that's the P to the D. So that still works in cursive. Now let's try the A and the E. So cursive A would look like this. When I flip it over, oh, I don't see an E in that at all. Yeah, that's not going to work. That doesn't make an E because a cursive E would look like this. And when you flip that over, I don't see an A in that. So basically what that's teaching us is that an A and an E in cursive does not work. That's a fail. So let's go on to the N. And the good thing is failing isn't a bad thing. A lot of times failing is good because you can see what works and what doesn't work. And sometimes you can't learn unless you do try something that doesn't work. So now we'll do the N. So here's my cursive N. Let's see what happens upside down. Oh, look at that. That does work. So that's a cursive U, and that's a cursive N. So we've played with 3 letter sets in cursive and in print, and we've learned what works and what doesn't work, or what we have to do to make it work. So now we're just going to try some numbers and letter combinations. So if you draw an L, a capital L, let's see what happens when we flip it over. So we're looking for a number 7. Does that look like a 7? Yeah, it's not bad. We probably would want to slant it a little bit because the 7's probably more like that. That looks more like a 7 to me. And when I flip it over, it looks like a weird L. So I guess what I would learn from this is that maybe the L would just be something like that in between what a regular 7 would look like in an L, and you get a slightly slanted L, and you have a perfect 7. So that's what we learned from that one. So to go from a B, the letter B, to an 8, let's see how that works. So here's a B, and there's an 8. Does that work? Not too well. So probably need to manipulate a few things here. And this is where you use your eraser. To make an 8, we're probably looking at a B needing to be a little bit more like that to get an 8 to work as well. So that one sort of works. Now let's go to the H and the number 4. So if we make an H, it looks like this. So what do we see in the H that could correspond to the number 4? Well, it's really pretty close, but if I were to make a 4, it would probably look like that or look like that, right? So let's flip those over and see how close they are to an H. Well, that one's not close to an H at all. This one's pretty close. So what I would probably do then with my 4 is I would get rid of the little hic here. So we can have a boxy lowercase h, and we have our 4. So those are just some of the tricks that I use to help me see what words might work and what words might not work. So now we're going to move on to real words. So we're advancing here. So go ahead, and on the 4th page of this worksheet is extra doodle area. So you may need to use this for these sketches on these words. And the first word we're going to do is the word big, B-I-G. So again, we'll just write it how you would normally write it. So I would probably do something like that. So when I flip it over, it doesn't really say big, but it's got a lot of components that are similar. The first thing I think I would do is, and this is just like white out, you can use your eraser. I would probably just get rid of that huge curve, the descender on the letter, and I would probably want to curve this one just a little bit. And then I would dot it on the other side. So now we have a B that's got an extra little curve at the top, and you have a G that doesn't have a huge curl, but it has a little bit of a curl. And when I flip it back, it still works both ways. So that's how you get that one to work. And doing the double I's, kind of like when I did the word risen, and I had the word Easter with the dot down here. You don't really notice it, but you definitely need it on this side. So the little dots on the I when it's upside down really isn't going to bother anything. It doesn't bother me. Okay. I hope you all are catching up okay. I hope I'm not going too fast. If I am, you can always back this up and watch it in another time. I am going to be saving this onto YouTube, and I'll just put the link right here on this Facebook page so that you can find it. But let's move on to letter B, which is the word chump. And first I'm just going to print it. And just so you know, chump was one of the first ambigrams created back in the 1920s. And they thought that it was the only word in the English language that could be flipped upside down. So I'll show you here in a minute how we're going to do that. But for years until the 70s. So here's the word chump. And let's flip it upside down. It kind of says de bump. So that's not working, is it? So now Let's keep it upside down and let's write the word chump again and see if we can't make it look a little bit better. So I would probably separate, probably put a little space in here to get my H, U, M, P, and then I won't close the P all the way. So here's chump again in print, and we flip it over. Does it work? No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work in print, but that doesn't mean that it might not work in cursive. So why don't we try cursive, and let's see if that solves some of these challenges. So in cursive, it would look like C, H, U, M, P. And I'm just not going to close the P all the way. So we have chump in cursive. And when we flip it upside down, look, we've got chump. C, H, U, M, P. And it all has to do with, because it's in cursive, all of the little lumps that were upside down all come together and it allows it to work. Chump and chump. So let's move on to C. And this one is the word pop. Let's see if we can't flip it over to be the word dad. I had a friend who was doing an ambigram with me, and she calls her dad Pop. And so when she did it, she was the one that kind of led me to this particular design. So we'll do a P and an O and a P. And maybe there's some people out there that call their dad Pop too, or maybe a grandparent. So here's the word pop. And when you flip it upside down, it says Dodd. So what's missing? We're missing an A. So what I would do here is I would just put a slight little line there, which helps you to visually see the word dad this way. And it still says pop that way, because that little dot doesn't really impact the word pop. So these are, you all have created 4 ambigrams, from the mom to wow, the word big to big, the word chump to chump, and the word dad to pop. And so now you have a lot of the skills now to create your own ambigram. So what I have on page 6 and 7 is to write your own name and practice writing it different ways and see if you can't get yours to flip upside down. I have tried to make my name flip and it doesn't, because I don't know, it just doesn't. And it's very frustrating to me because I love turning people's names upside down. But I did have a friend and her name was Anne. Her name is Anne. And I did her name like this. I did some capital N's because they didn't work in lowercase. And then I put an E on the end with the little hick. And I bet you all know what's going to happen when I flip it over. It says Anne again. Maybe your name is Anne, or maybe you know somebody named Anne. But using the technique that I've shared here today, you'll be able to make any word you want. And I'm going to leave number 6 and number 7 for you to do on your own at home and just play with it and see what you can come up with on your own. And as far as ambigram designers, apparently I am one of 100 in the world that has been recognized for creating this kind of art. And my goal is to share it with others so that other people can learn how to make it. Maybe you're going to be the 101st ambigram designer in the world. And we just want to keep this art alive through the next few generations. So I would like to let you know if you like what I've done here today and you would like for me to come and come to your library, your local library or your school. I would love to be able to be a part of that and to come and do a class just like this. So just pass that along if you're interested. I also have a free gift that I want to give everybody today that's been watching. This is an ambigram I did several years ago. It's the word worry. I think a lot of us tend to worry, but when you flip it over, it turns to the word prayer. That's really good advice too during these times of uncertainty, that anytime we get worried or afraid, we can just turn it over to God in prayer. So I have a free one of these for everybody that's watching. And even if you have a friend or family member that's out of town and you would like for them to have one, just let me know. The best thing to do would be to email me at design@btgraphics.com, design@btgraphics.com, and I can mail one to you. So just make sure that you let me know you want the Worry Prayer Card and your address of where you want me to send it to. That would be wonderful. And I will take this presentation. Of course, you'll be able to watch it. It will be saved as a video on the FaceTime Live on this Facebook page, Animotion Logos. And I will also save it as a YouTube video, and we'll post that link on this Facebook page as well. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and that you get to enjoy the beautiful outdoors. Thank you.